Welcome guys. I want to talk to you about a bit of VDI sizing and the fact that you should always look at your end user. I'm moving. Yeah, I'm used to walking around, so being stuck at a desk is kind of a thing for me, so bear with me. Those guys will keep me from walking anyway. I'm going to talk to you a bit about VDI sizing. But first, this. I have a disclaimer. It's not the normal one, but just read it and you'll know enough. When you're done, please raise your hand or laugh. Clear, guys, right? All right, cool. So my name is Kraaijeveld. I am a Horizon consultant. I work at Fondo. And if you want anything else to know about me, please come see me afterwards, because this is a very short session. I have only 12 minutes to go through this, so bear with me. This is me. So when sizing for a VDI environment, please never make assumptions, or at least as little as you can, because each assumption will associate a risk. And in terms of sizing, if you size this wrong, the implications can be very, very, very large. I've had a couple of experiences with customers where I went in for troubleshooting purposes and found out that, well, sizing wasn't done at all. They just put in some hardware and said, okay, this will probably suffice for end users to have a good performance, which of course did not work. So when you're sizing a VDI infrastructure, there's two main components basically. You have a server side where your authentication broker and all that stuff is going to be running, and you have a VDI resource side. And this is both for on-premises or in the cloud, or a combination of the two. VMware is actually going for a multi-cloud environment. I'm sure you've heard them talking about that, which then gives you a single control plane with everything underneath. So sizing this is quite easy. There is a couple of set components that you know of. For Horizon Azure, there's a set piece of infrastructure that you're going to consume on Azure, for instance. It's basically set and it's easy to size. On premises as well, all these components have their set limitations, which are easily found in the documentation. So it's just adding up the numbers, redundancy or not. It's quite easy. VDI desktop infrastructure, on the other hand, that takes a little more effort, because this will have to run your users, your desktops, your applications, and sizing this is hard. If you add a GPU, for instance, it makes it even harder, because that has its limitations as well, so that's another factor to consider. The desktop that's going to run on there also has its resource requirements, depending on what's going to happen on there. So that's quite hard, especially if you're going to add applications to that mix. I'm doing it again. I'll hold the desk, okay? So when sizing for these applications, you have to know your entire application landscape, which often when I go to companies and I ask them for a list of their applications, they usually don't have a clue which applications are actually being used by their users. Think of a bit of shadow IT, if they're allowed to install their own applications on there, or if they were used to doing that on their fat client and you're moving to a VDI solution. That could be potentially problematic, and you really have to know what these users need for them to do their work. So this user is the key component. When sizing for an environment like this, go and talk to them. You really need to get a basic understanding of what they are trying to do in their environment. If you don't know this, then you can't size this environment right. I'll give you an example. You all know Google Chrome, right? Right. So Google Chrome has quite a memory-hungry. I see some people laughing. It's memory-hungry, and it's getting more memory-hungry. So if this user is only using one tab, it's fine. You can size for that quite well. But I've been to companies that actually only had web-based applications, all in Chrome, so they had like 10 or 15 tabs open. You can maybe understand that that's going to be problematic if you didn't size for that fact. I've seen users using up to 1.5 gigabytes of RAM within a session, just one user, using a web browser, which is supposed to be lightweight, right? So if you don't do this, that user will probably look like this. They'll come and haunt you. I mean, the reason to build a VDI solution is to grant them the same experience that they had in their previous situation or at home. They basically want the same as they have at home. If you don't factor in this, you'll lose. So getting back, it's not rocket science, but it's something that's usually overlooked. They just look at the server side, they just look at the storage side. Hey, think of the CPUs you can choose for a user. Say one of those applications has it's single threaded still. And let me get this straight, Windows 10, the operating system, still has a lot of single threaded processing in there, even more than Windows 7. So that's something you'll have to factor in as well. But getting back to the user and his application, where was I? I lost it. Anyway, when you finally understand what the user needs, looking at your application landscape and knowing what they need will be simple. You know how many applications they need, you know which user needs what application. So in terms of user rights assignments, you know what to do. There might be different use cases. So you have to think about sizing for different use cases as well, because there could be a user that needs graphical acceleration, and there could also be users that use a lot of RAM for, say, a BIM model or something. So trying to combine those use cases in a single environment could also be problematic. So really think of them. What you need to do is list them, figure them out. What do they need? What are the applications? What kind of requirements do they have? And list them all and see if there's maybe similarities between those use cases, so you then can combine them on a single cluster. Or maybe combine them if that fits your resource. So getting back to the desktop then, if you know what the user needs and what applications he needs, you know where to host or what kind of desktops to host for granting them access to that resource. And that can be any desktop. It can be in Azure, it can be on Oracle, it can be on premises. It could even mean that that guy still needs a fat client. Could be. There are still a few use cases that will not fit a VDI solution. Maybe it's a weird license construction. Could be. I've seen it happen. So in the end, understand what that user needs. That's basically the point I'm trying to make. Please talk to them. Even as an IT guy, go talk to them. They're not that scary. They can be sometimes. But really talk to them and understand them and make them show you how they think they are supposed to work. Show them. So that's it. That's it. I have two other things. Since this is a community stage, I would like to invite anyone that knows anything about anything listed here to come on stage and tell about it. Share it. Please share it with the community, because we can all benefit from that knowledge from each other. So feel free to contact the guys here on the booth, and please share and give back. Last thing, for everyone seated here, I have a surprise. There's a small giveaway that you can collect with me after the session is done. If you want to come up and talk to me, I'll be here as well. And with that, I thank you.